Welcome to this explainer, everyone. Today, we're unpacking a massive, incredibly ambitious initiative that's currently transforming the educational landscape in the Philippines. It's called the Academic Recovery and Accessible Learning Program, or ARAL for short. If you follow global education, or if you're just really passionate about how nations bounce back from severe learning losses, you are going to find this fascinating. We are going to dig into the laws, the ground-level strategies, the resources, and the leadership it actually takes to pull off a systemic, nationwide tutoring program. Let's get right into it. To really wrap our heads around this effort, we have to look at a brilliant metaphor from Undersecretary Carmela Oracion. She compares the ARAL program to a cross-stitch. Think about it. When you look at the back of a cross-stitch, it is literally a mess. Threads are crossing in every possible direction, there are knots everywhere, loose ends. Honestly, there's no pattern at all. And that perfectly describes the reality of launching a nationwide recovery program. You've got scheduling conflicts, late fund releases, attendance issues, and just endless logistical hurdles. It's messy. But as she points out, when you finally turn that canvas over, you see this beautiful, cohesive picture. In her example, the Philippine flag. The ARAL program is very much still in that messy weaving phase, but that beautiful picture of recovered learning is the ultimate goal. Section 1. The ARL Program Act, the blueprint for recovery. All right, let's look at the foundation here. You can't just build a huge national program on good intentions, right? You need a rock-solid structural backing. And that brings us to Republic Act 1228, also known as the ARL Program Act. Now, this isn't just some temporary stopgap project. It is a legally mandated, entirely free, and highly targeted national learning intervention. It's designed specifically to support K-10 learners who are struggling to meet their grade-level competencies. And the primary focus? The absolute foundational building blocks: reading, mathematics, and science. The goal is super clear. Give struggling learners the exact tutorial support they need so they can finally catch up and actually thrive in their regular classes. So how do they actually track if a kid is catching up? Well, the program relies on this continuous loop of assessment. It kicks off with the BOSY, that's the beginning of school year assessment, just to identify who needs the help. Then they've introduced the MOSY, the middle of school year assessment. This is an absolute game changer because teachers don't have to wait until the very end of the year to see if the tutoring is working. They can adjust their strategies mid-flight. And finally, you have the EOSY, or end of school year assessment. That determines if a learner has finally reached grade level competency and can safely exit the program, or if they maybe need to roll right into the ARL summer program. Because of this really tight monitoring, educators are seeing results fast. Actually, over in Makati, one grade 6 learner went from being a non-reader to decoding syllables and words in literally just 2 weeks. Section 2, identifying the learners, the right tools for the right threads. You really can't fix a problem if you can't accurately diagnose it first. So to find the right threads for this tapestry, educators are relying on some very specific standardized tools. For early reading in grades 1 to 3, they use the CRLA, which is the Comprehensive Rapid Literacy Assessment. For older readers in grades 4 to 10, they use the PhilIRI, the Philippine Informal Reading Inventory. And for math across the board, they deploy the RMA, or Rapid Mathematics Assessment. By using these exact diagnostic tools, teachers aren't just guessing. They know immediately if a learner is at a frustration level in reading or not proficient in math, and that allows them to drop that student into the precise ARAL intervention they need to succeed. Section 3. The role of school heads, the master weavers. Of course, the best diagnostic tools in the world are totally useless without master craftspeople leading the work. And in ARAL, those master weavers are the school heads. The source material breaks down their crucial role into this powerful rule of 3. Step 1 is authority. Now, this isn't about being bossy. It's about having the power to organize readiness, lining up the tutors, mapping the schedules, and prepping the learning spaces before day 1 even starts. Step 2 is responsibility. This means making sure the program is deeply integrated into the school's actual improvement plan and run with high quality, not just checked off as some bureaucratic compliance thing. And step 3 is accountability. This is the big one. Accountability isn't about how many meetings you held or how many reports you filed. True accountability comes down to answering one simple question. Did the learning outcomes actually improve? Section 4, Teaching with Purpose, Crafting the Threads. Let's talk about the classroom. So, the school heads have set the stage, but what actually goes down inside one of these tutoring sessions? Well, regular classrooms often default to a one-size-fits-all model, mostly just due to sheer scale. But ARAL completely rejects that. ARAL is built from the ground up on a targeted, multisensory approach. It recognizes that a first grader struggling to connect sounds to letters needs a vastly different strategy than an older learner who can read words perfectly fine but completely struggles with comprehension. The instruction here is highly personalized, and it heavily relies on that deep human connection between the tutor and the learner. To actually pull off that level of personalization, the program leans on 4 universal design principles. First up, clear goals, meaning knowing exactly what specific skill is being remediated in that particular hour. Second is scaffolding. I absolutely love this one. It's the I do, we do, you do method. The tutor models the skill, they practice it together, and then the student tries it independently. Third is contextualization, which is just vital. For Indigenous peoples or Madrasa learners, materials are rooted directly in their local language, culture, or values. Like, they might discuss the 5 pillars of Islam to practice reading comprehension. It makes the learning instantly relevant to their lives. And fourth, inclusion. This means bringing in multi-sensory tactics, using touch, visuals, and speech, and purposefully keeping groups small so every single kid feels seen and supported. Section 5, Resources and Support, Fueling the Process. We think something this huge takes way more than just great teaching ideas. It takes real logistical and financial fuel. Take the number 2, for instance. This represents the maximum hours per day of teaching overload that existing public school teachers can actually be compensated for. You see, the ARAL program relies heavily on the voluntary dedication of DP teachers. If a teacher finishes their standard 6-hour teaching load, they can stick around for up to 2 extra hours to tutor for ARAL, and they will receive official overload pay for that extra dedication.
But they aren't just relying on internal teachers. The program also brings in external tutors. We're talking retired professionals, college grads, and para-teachers. And they are properly compensated too. Check out this specific number, 294 pesos and 13 centavos. That is the exact hourly rate paid to external tutors, benchmarked right against salary grade 11 of the national budget. It's not just a nice gesture. It shows a very concrete, systemic commitment to valuing the time of the people doing the heavy lifting on the ground.
Section 6, the beautiful picture, the final masterpiece. So, we've looked at the laws, the diagnostic tools, the leadership, and the funding. But bringing it all back to that cross-stitch metaphor we started with, what is the beautiful picture we are ultimately trying to reveal? Well, it all boils down to this incredibly powerful rallying cry. Walang maiiwan, lahat natuto, meaning no one is left behind, everyone learns. The end goal here isn't just to boast about some improved assessment data on a spreadsheet. The goal is the absolute, unwavering belief that every single child, no matter how far behind they might seem right now, deserves a second chance to learn, to dream, and to eventually become the engineers, the artists, and the leaders of tomorrow. And that brings us to the end of our explainer today. The ARAL pattern is definitely still messy in places, and it is actively being woven by thousands of dedicated educators across the Philippines as we speak. But learning about all this begs a much bigger question for all of us, no matter where we live. What role will you play in helping learners in your own community succeed? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive today. Stay curious, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.